All right, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. Thank you for joining us today for the Lunchtime Discovery Series. This is a program brought to you by the North Carolina Office of Environmental Education within the Department of Environmental Quality. They do the work of coordinating and collaborating in order to bring this program together. And then here at the Museum of Natural Sciences, we have the tools and the resources and a great big theater with a nice stage where we can put their guest speakers, give them a spotlight and the opportunity to share their science, their research, their knowledge and insights with us across all kinds of topics that environmental educators normally find pretty interesting. Stuff like science and nature and wildlife and conservation and education practices, and apparently today Taylor Swift. So I'm very excited for today's talk. Our guest today is Dr. Kelly Oten, who's an assistant professor and an extension specialist at North Carolina State University in the Department of Forestry. And so excited to have Dr. Oten here. Look, if anybody could make $1 billion being a forest entomologist, it would be Dr. Kelly Oten. Unfortunately, apparently, I've been told forest entomology does not make you $1 billion like being a pop star like Taylor Swift. But I'm very excited for today's talk. I cannot wait to see how we compare Taylor Swift's album to spotted lanternflies. But if anybody could do it, I know it's Dr. Kelly Oten. So please put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Dr. Kelly.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me. A lot of people don't think that I can compare insects with Taylor Swift, but hold my drink, I'm going to do that today. The spotted lanternfly is the showgirl of the invasive species world, and I'm going to prove that to y'all today. And I'm not just saying that because, yes, I am a Swiftie. My friends and coworkers all know that. Oh, what? Is that a picture from when I went to the airs? How did that get in there? I'm not just saying it because I love insects. This is me on your left in kindergarten when all the other kids wanted to be Little Miss Muffet and little princesses when we had to dress up like nursery rhymes. I chose the spider. So that's me on the left there. And then that's me on the right also in 4th grade. So I've loved insects since the beginning, so it's real fun to get to put Taylor Swift and insects together. But I'm not the only one that thinks spotted lanternfly is a bit of a showgirl. Here's a clip from Kate McKinnon on a late night TV show.
I love bugs, and I saw this baby on the street, and I was like, oh my God. This moth, what? It's like sepia-toned wing, fishnets basically.
Basically, it's gorgeous.
Peak of red with polka dots, like this is a burlesque dancer.
Yeah, I know, this is the most gorgeous bug I've ever seen.
This moth has tassels on her boobs and is ready to do a wig change.
Yes.
This is like a moth.
Yes.
And then I saw
This.
a few days later.
In the New York Times.
You're supposed to
Kill this bug. Kill. They want you to kill this, murder
Kill
this
with
bug.
no mercy, they
Yeah.
said. Kill it with no mercy.
Spotted lanternfly.
That's a great clip. If you ever want to finish watching it, look it up. It's on YouTube. But essentially, yes, it is a very beautiful insect, but it is also very deadly. Not deadly, bad news, I should say. Can anyone finish these Taylor Swift lyrics for me? Oh, I knew there would be one Swiftie in the crowd. So yes, spotted lanternfly is a nightmare dressed like a daydream, and you get a friendship bracelet. Oh, sorry. And what does that say, guest? Yes, SLF is a nightmare. Dressed like a daydream was way too long to put on a bracelet. So sorry about that. Does anyone know what song that is from? Blank space, you got it. Here you go. You want to read that one?
I knew the spotted lanternfly is what it. I knew the spotted lanternfly was trouble.
So good, so good. I told my mom I was going to talk about insects and Taylor Swift, and she was like, if only it had horses, it would have all your 3 favorite things in it. So I was like, well, now I have to add a slide with horses. So this is from the Blank Space music video, so it's not just completely out of context. So Kate McKinnon was right. Yes, this insect is very showy. It's very beautiful. A lot of people agree with that. But she did get something wrong, and that is she called it a moth. She's not the only one. This is a clip from PBS where they said, why scientists say you should kill this moth. Spotted lanternfly is not a moth. Yeah, it looks like one, but it's actually in the order Hemiptera, which includes all of our true bugs. So it is more closely related to aphids, to cicadas, to leafhoppers, spittlebugs, scales, all of those insects, than it is to moths. What does that mean as far as how it feeds? Well, one of the things is it has piercing sucking mouthparts, and this is actually how it damages the plant. So it has piercing sucking mouthparts that actually inserts into the plant, which can cause damage, obviously, but it actually retrieves nutrients within the plant. Spotted lanternfly are what we call phloem feeders, so basically they feed on sap. And this contrasts with a lot of insects that you might think about, like caterpillars, which have chewing mouthparts and chew on the leaves of plant and damage plants in much, much different ways. Here you can see a hemipteran with its mouthparts in a plant right there, just sucking all of the sap and nutrients out of it. Now here's a problem when it comes to sucking insects. Not only are they taking all those nutrients out of the plant, which can damage it, it can stress it, it can weaken it, the tree doesn't have all the nutrients that it's trying to get in order to survive, but as insects are taking that massive amounts of sap and phloem and juices into their body, they're taking in a lot of sugar and water as well. So that has to come out somewhere, and that comes out in the form of honeydew. Has anyone ever stood underneath a tree on a sunny day and felt little droplets of water on your arm? Well, there's no way to sugarcoat this. Those are insects peeing on you. Honeydew is the excrement, basically sugary substance, sugary water that comes out at the other end of an insect. A lot of people, it's called honeydew because it is very sticky, like honey. Now, if you don't know, Taylor Swift did release a new album on October 3rd of this year. It is absolutely fantastic, like all of her albums, so no one's surprised. But this is the track list from her record. And I'm going to try to say the name of every single track list in today's presentation. So I just said honey. You're welcome. Try to keep up. I'm going to try to keep up. If I mess it up, I'm sorry right now. All right. A problem with honeydew. You might be like, okay, so all insects go to the bathroom, right? Well, most of them do. But a problem with it is because it's so sweet, it's very attractive to stinging insects. One time I parked under a tree that had some hemipterans up in the canopy, got a whole bunch of honeydew on the outside of my car, and I actually had to crawl in the passenger side door because there were so many yellow jackets hovering around my driver's side door. So not great news. There is a cool mutualism that comes out of it. Ants really like honeydew, so they will protect aphid colonies in exchange for actually feeding on that honeydew. You kind of see a weird photo right there, the silhouette of the ant with the aphid. You might think it looks a little bit weird, but I think it's actually romantic. All right. Doing well so far. The other issue with honeydew is that it causes the growth of sooty mold. So it's actually like multiple species of mold that'll grow on the honeydew itself. It looks like a disease of a plant, but it's actually not a disease. You can rub it off, wash it off. A lot of people use like a pressure washer to get it off, but it looks bad, and if there's a lot of it, it can block the photosynthetic capabilities of the plant, right? So if the tree or the plant is not able to get sunlight into its leaves, then obviously it's not doing so hot. This is a lot of sooty mold growing under an infested tree. And this is a crepe myrtle. This does not have spotted lanternfly. This actually has another invasive insect called crepe myrtle bark scale. But you can just see how black and dark in coloring it is. A lot of people actually notice the sooty mold first before they know that there's actually an insect, whether it be an aphid or a scale infestation in their tree. They're calling me and saying, hey, I have a black growth on the bottom of my tree. And I'm like, look up. There's probably aphids or scales, maybe spotted lanternfly in there as well. But let's get back to the spotted lanternfly. What is it, okay? Well, we already know, not a moth, right? So we know it's a hemipteran, a true bug, not a moth. We also know it's a sap sucker, hence all that honeydew that's coming out and causing a problem. Because it's a hemipteran, all insects that are in the order Hemiptera go through incomplete metamorphosis. What that means is when you think of metamorphosis, you usually think of butterflies, right? Egg, caterpillar, pupa, adult. They do not go through that pupal or cocoon, that middle stage. They only have 3 stages. So they go through the egg stage, the nymph stage, and the adult stage. So this is the life cycle of the life cycle of a showgirl. Egg, nymph. You can kind of see a few different stages of the nymph there, and then the adult. So yes, this is the life of a showgirl. That was a gimme. This is what the egg mass looks like up close. You might be like, not looking like much. No, this is going to be a problem that we talk about later. So they lay their eggs and they actually cover it with this sticky substance. You can kind of see it there, kind of grayish in color. And then when they're nymphs, they actually have 2 different patterns. So when they're early, the first 3 stages of the nymphs, they're this black with white spots. And then in their last stage, their 4th stage, they get this red coloration. Really beautiful, really vibrant. You can see them side by side right here. Can y'all tell which one's the older one? Yeah, well, the ones that have the bright red. So that one could be the eldest daughter. It's hard to say. She's definitely older than the black one with the white spots. All right. Now, once they emerge as adults, you know, they all look generally the same. There is a little bit of variability in size, but they have these grayish, brownish colored wings with the spots and kind of a pattern at the tip. Now, the picture on the right there is what you see in a lot of media. And so it kind of makes sense why people say it looks like a moth, right? The wings are spread, it's very beautiful, very in-your-face vibrant, but the reality is when it's at rest on a plant, it's looking like the picture on the left there. So kind of drabish gray, and it's not until it flies or until it dies and its wings are kind of spread on the ground that you really see those red underwings. Those are more pictures of the adults. These are actually from that infestation that we have in North Carolina. You can see that little red peeking through. So that's a lot about spotted lanternfly, right? Not a moth. It feeds on sap. Incomplete metamorphosis. But why are we even having a talk about spotted lanternfly? Is it just a cool bug? No, the bad thing is it is not native. It is considered an invasive species. It is originally from Asia, also parts of India and Vietnam, and it was accidentally brought over here. Does anyone know how it got over here? The building in New York that has a lot of spotted lanternflies on it? I bet a lot of them do. But that is not how they got there. Any other guesses? Shipping containers. That's a great guess. Here's a hint. Fruit. That's a great guess. It's actually the countertop. So granite. So shipping containers, Renee was right, but actually more specifically, we are pretty sure that spotted lanternfly laid its egg mass on a piece of granite that was shipped over here to be used in kitchens or something else. You can see how granite is shipped in the middle there and then obviously put on a shipping container. Now, whenever I share this bit of information, a lot of people are like, well, why are we getting granite from, Asia or whatever? I'm like, well, there's lots of beautiful granite around the world, and actually the native range of spotted lanternfly is the largest granite-producing country in the world. So it was really an odds game. We just get a lot of granite shipments from China specifically, which has about 33% of the granite production in the world, followed closely by India, another portion of the native range of spotted lanternfly. So it did come over, again, probably as a hitchhiker in those granite shipments, and it was introduced in eastern Pennsylvania and since started to spread. Now, when it was first found, it was in 2014. And it was already in a pretty wide area. Our best guess is it was introduced at least 2 years before that, but we'll never know for sure, right? So this is a map showing how it spread, kind of like ground zero and then where it spread from there. And for a while, we were like watching it spread, a little wary here in North Carolina. This is a map from 2022. You can see it's starting to pop up very close to our state line. So we started to get a little bit worried. It kind of felt like this, where we're in the convertible car behind the truck that's about to spray a all over us. And that's exactly what happened. So in 2022, we got a report of spotted lanternfly in Forsyth County. I just saw the sticky note that says reserved for Taylor Swift on the chair. That's great. So in 2022, big news, spotted lanternfly was reported in Forsyth County. It was right on the county line with Guilford County. So when you see a map and it shows both of them, it's really just one infestation spot that bleeds over into another county. But when it was reported and it became public, it was big news. Remember, it was on late night TV. People hated it. And we're going to get into why they hated it a little bit more. But the media went wild with, oh my gosh, it's here. We've been waiting for it, and it is finally here. For a while, nothing else happened until earlier this year, where we had two new reports of it in Caldwell County and Rockingham County. So it is spreading. This is the most updated map that I could find online. I added a little point there for approximately where Caldwell County is, since it wasn't added to the map yet, and it will probably likely continue to spread. So even if you're not in one of the counties where spotted lanternfly is, this is still really important information for you, because your county is probably on spotted lanternfly's wish list. All right. Now, how are they getting around? Spotted lanternflies, we already talked about, are really good hitchhikers. And they can hitchhike as nymphs. They can hitchhike as adults. But the biggest thing is probably their egg masses. They are in the egg mass all winter long. And we already talked about how it looks. Not very obvious, right? So in this picture, the top shows an egg mass that's covered with that kind of slimy thing that I showed you earlier, but now it's dried up, so it wasn't freshly laid. So it just kind of looks like cracked mud, right? Nothing real spectacular. And then on the bottom there, that's the egg mass that has hatched. You can actually see the eggs right there. So these egg masses are just sitting there all winter long. If you move something that has the egg masses on them, you could easily move it. So really, the mothers and fathers just lay these eggs and disappear. You're not looking for the insects anymore. Not a very good father figure, but if they lay their egg masses on something that could potentially be moved, then you have a problem. Right here on the left, it's on brick. We know that they like stone, hence the granite connection. You see them on a cinder block, that middle barrel, a bunch of egg masses on the bottom, though, frankly, that barrel doesn't look like it's moving anytime soon. On a wheel, we see these a lot on outdoor equipment, RVs, wheel wells, under bumpers, even in tailpipes. Big problem, because if they're laying it on a vehicle, talk about something that moves, right? And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not checking your wheel wells, then obviously they can easily move from place to place. You'll even see them on wood. So yes, spotted lanternflies are quite the hitchhikers. I did have AI make this just for y'all. Pretty proud of my non-art skills. So why is that a big deal? There are quarantines associated with spotted lanternfly, but we do not have any in North Carolina currently. What this spotted lanternfly quarantine does is it regulates the movement of specific articles. So if anyone is conducting business within that quarantine zone and they're moving outside of the quarantine zone, then they have to have a spotted lanternfly permit. This is what the permit looks like. It's a little hang tag that truckers, business people can use when they're moving into and out of the quarantine. There's even videos on YouTube where people show like, all right, this is how you have to do your spotted lanternfly inspection before you leave the quarantine. And if you are asked to, did you do all these checks, you need to be able to say yes and have your little check sheet. So it's a lot. It puts a burden on a lot of small businesses. It makes it really annoying to have to deal with quarantines, and talk about having to provide education if you need to go through a spotted lanternfly training. So a big deal, especially this kind of erupted in the 2020, early 2022, and a lot of businesses were already suffering from the hits from COVID, so not an ideal storm. So we obviously don't want it to spread, and it's doing a very good job of spreading. But why is it such a bad bug? We can talk about, hey, it's invasive, it's not from here, but what is it actually doing? Why do we really consider it bad? Well, one, it has a very large appetite. Worldwide, there are more than 100 species that have been documented as host plants for spotted lanternfly. Within the US, there's over 70 species so far. When they're nymphs, they're a little more generalists. They like rose, grape, sumac, raspberry, cucumber, kind of the smaller, fleshier, I guess, types of plants. They really like tree of heaven. And then when they become adults, they usually have some kind of host preference. Like within a population, you kind of see them gravitate towards one thing. But they all love tree of heaven. Tree of heaven is their preferred host. They love it. It is an invasive tree in and of itself, but keep that in mind when we get to how we manage spotted lanternfly. For a while, we thought that it has to have tree of heaven to complete development, but research has since shown that that is not the case. It can complete development on any of these species, any of the 100+ species that we already know it to be on. So black walnut, birch, willow, maple, grape, black locust, all kinds of fruit trees and such. Does anyone have a favorite on their list on this list that they're worried about? You can shout it out. Cherry, hops. That's a good one. We don't have many hops in North Carolina, but there's some. What about grapes? Anyone love grapes? Anyone love wine? So grapes are the biggest concern by far. We have seen spotted lanternfly take over vineyards, cause massive reduction in crop quality and crop quantity, even when they've reduced 90% of the grape crop. The grapes that do remain have lower sugar content. So it's become a big, big issue. And in North Carolina, you may not think of us as one of the biggest wine states in the country, but we're actually a top 10. We have over 400 vineyards in the state, worth over $6 billion worth of economic impact. So there are a lot of vineyards here, and it is mine and my best friend's favorite drink. But also a big concern is, what if spotted lanternfly spreads to Napa Valley, right? There was a study done at NC State by Chris Jones that said without preventative measures, it will likely get there on its own by 2033. That's in 8 years, y'all. That's not great. I love wine, so not ideal. Also, as it keeps spreading into new areas, you always have the concern of, will it start attacking new hosts, new trees, new plants that it was never exposed to before? And that's exactly what happened here in the South. We added southern magnolia to the list since spotted lanternfly was detected in North Carolina. So it feeds on a lot of different plants, weakens them. Honeydew, we already talked about it. It's also very annoying. If that's not a reason to hate something, I don't know what is. Spotted lanternflies get into these huge mating clusters. We see a lot of pictures from downtown areas. This picture on the left here is from a Chipotle in downtown Philadelphia. There was a mating swarm at the door for almost a week. And reportedly, people had to go in the side door to get their burrito fix. I also love burritos. Another reason to hate spotted lanternfly. Also, check this middle picture. This is in someone's backyard. Just a huge mating swarm at the base of this tree. You can see the honeydew, massive amounts of sooty mold at the base of that tree. Even that little kid's ride-on back there. The kid just wants to go for Rhino's toy. Not today. Spotted lanternfly all over the sidewalk on the far right. I've heard reports of spotted lanternfly in Target. It's coming after all of my favorites. Not great. And a lot of people are taking notice. This insect does not need me to tell y'all how bad it is. It is basically making a name for itself on its own. If you go online, you can find so much merch. The shirts, the mugs. I particularly like this shirt on the right. You may be like, what is that? We'll get to that when we get to management. It is a sticky band that people use to kill spotted lanternfly. So everyone knows it's beautiful. Like even this one mug, so pretty, too bad we have to kill them all. Yes, it's beautiful, but we've got to kill it because it's awful. And for that reason, publicly, I don't need to be up here telling y'all how bad it is. It's doing it itself, so we can all agree spotted lanternfly is canceled now. Yes, we can. All right, it's made its name, or it's made way into late night TV. I already showed you this clip. It's also been on Saturday Night Live. So big deal. Emerald ash borer hasn't come close to this, so pick it up, emerald ash borer. Just killing 99.9% of our ash. Do better. Just kidding. Don't. Stop. All right. Then remember honeydew. When we were talking about honeydew, scales and aphids are small insects, right? So when I was talking about little raindrops on your arm, how petite, spotted lanternfly is huge. They make a ton of honeydew, large splatters of it. Nothing even compares to what they can do when you're looking at aphids and scales. This picture on the left here, this is the cover of someone's truck bed. They parked it under a spotted lanternfly infested tree for about an hour and came out to this. And if you've ever had to wash honeydew off of your car, no fun. Absolutely not a good task. So this guy probably scrapped it and bought a new one. I know I would. The middle picture, more sooty mold around the base of the tree. And then again, just a reminder that it also attracts stinging insects and just all around yuck, right? So what are we doing about it? What are we even doing about spotted lanternfly? Well, one thing is we're trapping. When we talk about invasive insects, there's a lot of ways that we can trap. The picture on the right, or on the left there, is a funnel trap. We use these for bark beetles, ambrosia beetles. It low-key looks like the silhouette of a tree, so as beetles get closer, they slam into the side and then they get captured in the cup at the bottom. We use that for southern pine beetle, for example. The picture on the right is one that we use for emerald ash borer. You can see it's this large sticky triangle hanging in a tree. We do bait it with a lure, and as emerald ash borer goes in and slams to the side, they get stuck on the inside. The color is actually very specific. There was a lot of research to determine the best color, and that shade of purple or violet, also the shade of Elizabeth Taylor's eyes. Y'all, it's hard with some of these. Thank you. It was very specific and very attractive to emerald ash borer. So what do we have for spotted lanternfly? This. Nothing nearly as sophisticated. It's some wire and some boards and a Ziploc bag. It's not the best trap. We'll just put it that. It's hard to hang up. People are like, what are you even doing? I question my own self at that same time. But it can work, especially if you're trying to reduce the number of spotted lanternfly on a specific tree or just detect it in an area. The problem is it only works if it's on a tree that spotted lanternfly is on. So the way it works is it's basically this mesh funnel, and spotted lanternfly tends to go up and down the trunk of a tree to regulate their temperature throughout the day. So as they go up the trunk of the tree, that mesh funneling will basically funnel them into the bag, and they're just not smart, so they get stuck in the bag and just stay there and eventually die. So that's what the spotted lanternfly trap looks like. Not great, but this is how we trap for nymphs and adults. But research out of our lab by Abby Ratcliffe in the back row there is showing that these egg mass traps might actually be a little bit better of a way, not only to detect them, which we're doing research on right now, but also to maybe reduce their numbers, reduce their population. Basically, the way it works is you hang these traps. They're just made out of roofing shingles, so super easy supplies to get, and they're really attractive because it creates this little cove-like area where the spotted lanternfly wants to lay its eggs. Also, they love that texture, and then you go back out there and you just destroy them, right? You're just like, ha, fooled you, and you take your traps down and you can kill all of the egg masses. So it can be a way not only to determine, okay, is spotted lanternfly in the area because now we have egg masses, but you can also kill those eggs, and if you kill them before they hatch, fewer spotted lanternfly the next season, right? Another way that we do trapping is by using lures. So this is a spongy moth trap. It is very, very effective. And the reason why it's effective is just this little triangle. The inside of it's sticky. The reason why it's so effective is because we bait it with a lure. And that lure is a synthetic version of the sex pheromone of the spongy moth. So basically what happens is the male moth smells the pheromone. He thinks it's a wonderful day. He's the luckiest day of his life, and he flies into the trap, and it's the unluckiest day of his life, and he gets captured in it. And because it's a sex pheromone, it is specific to only other spongy moths. So it's not going to draw in your other insects. We can't smell it. It's not going to impact your pets, anything like that. And the fact that we've been able to synthesize this natural thing in the lab is really what's allowed us to get a handle and have a really good management program for spongy moth now, where we've been able to keep it out of North Carolina since the late 80s, all because of that. So if you want to think of it as similar to opalite being the synthetic version of opals, we do create the sex pheromone in lab. It's getting harder. So do we have lures for spotted lanternfly? No, we don't. Another bad news, and why the traps don't work so well. So again, the traps really only work if they're on a tree that the spotted lanternfly is on. We're not giving up hope. We also do a lot of surveys. So this is primarily led by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And primarily they focus on high-risk areas. And when I say high-risk areas, these are areas where people might accidentally bring spotted lanternfly in. So think of state parks, people visiting from outside, areas that might already have spotted lanternfly. Rest areas, people who are, by nature traveling, if they happen to stop in. If you go to any rest area in North Carolina, you should see a spotted lanternfly poster. Every single one in the state has one, and a lot of them have traps as well. Rail yards. We do see populations and infestations follow rail lines because, hey, no surprise, trains can probably provide a pretty good way for an insect to move around, right? Hardscape businesses, remember that granite brick tie-in? Those are good places to survey too. Metropolitan areas, just anywhere where a lot of people congregate. And then tourist hotspots, campgrounds, beaches, NASCAR, anywhere where someone might be bringing in firewood, because firewood is one of the biggest threats, not just with spotted lanternfly, but with all invasive species. With spotted lanternfly, they're not boring inside the wood like we see with other invasive insects, but they might lay their egg masses on the outside, and it just looks like a smear of mud, so therefore people pay no attention to it. But we're also doing something very cool in North Carolina when it comes to surveys. That is, we have a detector dog team in North Carolina, pretty unique. There are 2 dogs in North Carolina, Kita and Goose. This is Kita. She is located right here in Raleigh. Sweet little puppy, but these dogs are trained to sniff out spotted lanternfly. So she can smell all the life stages, egg, nymph, adult, and she can smell them much, much, much better than we can see them, right? So similar to bomb dogs, drug dogs, things like that, we just train them to smell for bugs. We've done this before, actually, with pathogens primarily. So laurel wilt disease is a disease killing red bay trees in North Carolina, but it also kills avocados. And we have already trained dogs to sniff out the pathogen in avocado trees, and then that enables us to protect the tree, treat it, and save the tree before symptoms ever even appear. So very, very cool. But yes, this dog can smell out spotted lanternfly. Here's a video of her in action. When she finds spotted lanternfly, she sits. Oh, good girl. So isn't the tail pop there with that exercise? But very, very cool way. If we get a report that comes in, then Kita or Goose might go out and inspect the area. All right, so we have spotted lanternfly in a few areas in North Carolina. What is being done about it? There is some management in place. There are some knockdown sprays being done where you basically go out and spray it with a contact spray. But one of the other things that we've done, especially in this first area in Forsyth County, was removal of Tree of Heaven. Remember I told y'all Tree of Heaven, the favorite host plant of spotted lanternfly? Well, if we go in the area, we cut down all of the spotted lanternfly all of the Tree of Heaven that is under 6 inches DBH. And that basically means the size of the diameter. So if it's less than 6 inches diameter, it gets cut down, it gets sprayed with an herbicide so that it does not sprout back, right? Well, what happens to the ones that are over 6 inches DBH? We use those as what we call trap trees. We actually treat them with an insecticide. We put dye in the spray so we can make sure we get full coverage. So we basically do a basal bark spray. The chemical we use is called emamectin benzoate. And basically the tree absorbs it through the bark, and then it translocates it throughout the entire canopy. So basically this entire tree is protected. If spotted lanternfly comes across and starts feeding on it, then it will die. So it kind of seems counterintuitive to protect an invasive tree, but it's all we've got, and we're not getting rid of Tree of Heaven anytime soon. So we got to use what we've got. All right, a lot of people ask me about biological control. Don't birds eat them? Mostly no. There are some species that have been documented to feed on them. The gray catbird is the biggest species, not the biggest in size, but the most commonly associated one with it. But the take-home message is they don't eat enough of them to actually reduce the population, and most birds don't even like them because as they feed on tree of heaven, they build up alkaloids, they taste bad and bitter. They also, the flashy red color is a warning signal for insects, and so a lot of other animals just tend to stay away because of that. It's called aposematic coloration. There is some research looking into parasitoids. These are basically insects that eat other insects. If you think of a parasite, but it kills its host. So the top one here, Anastatis orientalis, is an egg parasitoid. So basically this wasp lays her egg on spotted lanternfly eggs, and then her offspring, after that hatches, eats those eggs so that they never hatch. Dryaenus cynicus is my first time saying these species out loud. That is a nymph parasitoid, so the female will attack the nymph. You can see the picture a little bit right there, a bloody battle, not bloody at all. But she's basically laying her egg on the nymph, then her larvae will eat it from the inside out and kill it. So it can be really effective, but we have not started a release program with these yet. Obviously, this is something that requires a lot of research before we start releasing non-native insects into a new area. So we will see where this one goes. Kind of a side thing. A researcher noticed that they're very attracted to vibrations. Now, what that means for management, hard to say. There's been a lot of ideas floating out there, but for whatever reason, they're very attracted. I think it's like the 60 hertz vibroacoustic stimuli is very attractive to them. Can we make a trap out of that? Maybe. It hasn't been done yet, but maybe we can. All right. So this is what's being done with the Department of Ag, with researchers. Y'all might be wondering, what do I need to do? What can you do about it? I kind of alluded to sticky bands earlier. That is one thing that people can do. So if you have spotted lanternfly on your property, yes, you can put sticky bands up on your tree. Yes, as nymphs and adults crawl up and down, they will get stuck on those sticky bands and basically die on the bands. You'll need to replace them if they're really high infestation numbers. Now, but one really bad downside of the sticky bands is it doesn't just catch spotted lanternfly. It will catch other insects. It will catch other mammals, small mammals, and sometimes birds, sometimes frogs, sometimes snakes. So a lot of people have tried to remedy that by either putting a cage around it or even inverting the sticky band. So this, you can see some padding, and as the spider lanternfly goes up, the sticky is actually on the inside, so it won't capture those birds and mammals in the same way. So those are some ideas, but again, this is only gonna treat or going to kill the insects that are on that exact tree that you're trying to protect. Now is actually a really good time to manage for spotted lanternfly because they're egg masses from now through when they hatch. So you can manage for those egg masses and reduce the populations of them that are going to hatch the next spring. And there's actually really, really easy methods for killing those egg masses. It involves a credit card and a Ziploc bag. You just go out there and scrape the egg mass into a bag and destroy it. You can just put hand sanitizer in it, alcohol in it, or just honestly just zip the bag and throw it away. You can also spray egg masses with a dormant or horticultural oil. Just make sure you saturate it so that it penetrates all the way through that covering and actually kills it. Now remember that egg mass trap I mentioned with the roofing shingles. Abby created a DIY method online. You can find this on our Spotted Lanternfly page, which I will show you at the end of this presentation. But this shows you a step-by-step method for creating that spotted lanternfly egg mass trap. You can do this on your own property if you don't know if you have spotted lanternfly and you're trying to look, or if you have spotted lanternfly and you're just trying to knock down the population for the following year. So a really good way to help knock it down. Now, as far as nymphs and adults, they're actually really, really easy to kill. So it's a little bit surprising that they've been as successful, reproducing and spreading as they have, but c'est la vie. So you can stomp on them. That's the, go-to method a lot of people like to use. There are contact insecticides, meaning you spray it on the insect and it has to come in contact with it to kill it. There's a few active ingredients there. There's also some non-chemical sprays. Neem oil or insecticidal soap also work. With either of these, you will have to do repeat applications because you do need to get it on the insect for it to actually work. And then, of course, there's the systemic insecticides, which I already mentioned with when we were talking about Tree of Heaven. I think I said emamectin benzoate. I think it's actually dinotefuran that we use. But imidacloprid and dinotefuran are both useful for this if you want to protect a certain tree. They're systemic insecticides, so that means the tree takes it up into the system, insects feed on it, and when they ingest it, they die. We use this for a lot of invasive forest pests. We do it for emerald ash borer. We do it for hemlock woolly adelgid. It can be very, very effective, and depending on the tree species, it can last for sometimes 1 year, sometimes up to 7 years. We don't know how it works in every single species so far, but something that can be considered. Now, I did put an asterisk by systemic insecticides because both of these insecticides are in the class of insecticides called neonicotinoids. And the reason we need to know about this is because this is the class of insecticides that can harm pollinators. So you need to be very careful not to treat a tree or a plant that is visited by pollinators. Make sure you follow the label. The label of a pesticide is the law, so don't get in trouble and don't kill the bees. Easy as that. There's also another really simple method that people in infested areas use. They just put a bucket of soapy water on their back porch. For whatever reason, we're not entirely sure what it is, but spotted lanternfly loves water. They will just dive bomb into it. So if they put a bucket of soapy water out on their back porch, spotted lanternfly will dive in, the soap breaks the surface tension so they cannot get out, and then they essentially drown. You don't even need an insecticide. So they drown, similar to the fate of Ophelia. Thank you. One left. All right. Lastly, what else can you do? And this is where you can help us. If you find it, report it. The only way that we're going to have any possibility of getting a handle on spotted lanternfly is if it's reported when it's in a relatively small place, right? We have an outreach program called Poolside Pests. Remember, they like to dive bomb into water. We've worked a lot with pool companies trying to get the word out to pool owners like, hey, as you're changing or checking your filters, things like that. If you see it, let us know kind of thing. But we're also just doing awareness broadly because Asian longhorn beetle also does it too. So this whole program is aimed at spreading awareness of these two insects that if they are found in North Carolina, there is a response. You can also report it on the NCDA's webpage directly. If you do report it via our Poolside Pest, that actually brings you to their reporting tool. You are required to upload a photo when you submit a report, and that's just so that you don't make something up and don't make NCDA, chase something down that may not be real. So make sure you have that ready to go. And don't upload a photo of your dog. I hear that happens more than they'd probably like. You can also just learn more about spotted lanternfly. This is that spotted lanternfly resource page that I mentioned. There's a QR code there, but we also have a Go link, go.ncsu.edu/SLF. And we have a lot of resources on that page. We have a look-alike thing. We have that DIY lampshade trap for the egg mass, as I talked about. We have how to kill Tree of Heaven if you decide to do host removal. I also worked with some really great folks with NCDA, with some filmmakers, and we recently put out a YouTube video all about spotted lanternfly. So share this with your friends, spread the word, because the last thing you want to happen is, your friend has seen spotted lanternfly and you know all about it and you didn't tell them. Last thing you want to do is ruin the friendship. All right. I'm pretty proud of myself. I was like, I'm going to botch this at some point. But I did it. All right. With that is all I have about spotted lanternfly. Are there any questions?
First, let's give Dr. Kelly a great big round of applause. And an extra round of applause just for managing the album. Amazing work. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. If you've got questions, raise your hand. If you're here on the first floor, I'll bring you a microphone. If you're up on the balconies, wave down at us. We can call on you. You can yell your questions. and then we'll use the microphones and repeat so that everybody in the room can hear. And I think to get started, I was curious about lookalikes. If there are other bugs in North Carolina that people might squash that are not spotted lanternfly.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Probably the most common one is the leopard moth, which is a white moth with black spots. She also holds her wings pretty roof-like over her body and is a similar size to spotted lanternfly. So it's a little bit of a bummer because they're really cool moths. They're the adult version of the woolly bear caterpillars. But that is the most common one that, at least in CDA, gets reports of and probably squashed. There's also a tiger moth, and then it goes downhill from there. But you know, as an entomologist, you're like, these don't look anything alike. And the rest of the world is like, oh, those look very similar. But yeah, leopard moth is probably the biggest one.
When did you get the call or the email that there was spotted lanternfly in North Carolina, and what must that have felt like?
Well, you know, anytime we get a new invasive insect in North Carolina, it's a little bit like a mix of like surreal and also like, well, not surprised also. I've been on, you know, the front lines. Like I was there when we first found emerald ash borer in the state of North Carolina. And that is much more exciting than getting the call. Because then when you get the call, you're just like, I just want to get there. Like I need to contain my excitement that this is actually happening. Like I've been waiting for this moment. I just have to act bummed. So it's one of those things where, you know it's going to be bad news. You know your job's going to get a little bit busier. But as far as like invasive species go, like this is just like, they're amazing that they can just take advantage of new environments the way they do and, you know, cause so much destruction. It's, you know, as someone who's always loved bugs and is always impressed by bugs, like invasive species are up there as far as always impressing me, but in the worst way, in the worst ways. Yes, sir.
How powerful is the bucket of water method? Like, could you just put those out in the woods and they come?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't think there's been research on how powerful, like how far away does it lure spotted lanternfly. I imagine it's a pretty small, pretty small draw. But I don't know. Maybe we can do research. Be minimal supplies.
You said that we'll never, ever, ever be able to synthesize something like a pheromone or lure for lanternflies. Why is that?
They have tried to determine what draws spotted lanternflies to each other. There's some hypotheses that it has to do with heat, that it has to do with the vibration. That we have trees out there that we call them hot trees, where for whatever reason spotted lanternfly are just drawn to them, but they have not been able to figure out a pheromone that is involved. So if they are able to do that, then recreating it would be really, really helpful. Like that was what cracked the management for spongy moth, and what really allowed us, not only can we trap it, we actually use it in management as well. We fly over acres and acres of infested area, just, you know, putting the sex pheromone out everywhere, and then the males and females can't find each other. And so it's not just used in detecting them, it's used in actually reducing their populations. And it would be really impactful if we could find one for spotted lanternfly.
I was just wondering, do the other states have a similar kind of management plan, or is it different? New York in particular, we were in New York City, and like you say, I should have been horrified, but I was so excited to finally see this insect in person. But it was really everywhere. And even on the Highline Trail, which is this beautiful conservation thing.
Taylor Swift sings about it, I'm aware.
Oh, okay, I didn't even know that. My daughter would probably know. Yeah, but I was horrified. There was a tree of heaven right on this trail, and like completely infested. So I was just wondering, like, how long does that systemic poison take to act? Like, could they have this as a bait tree and it just hasn't worked yet?
Yeah, so once you spray the tree with the insecticide, it takes about 2 weeks for the entire tree to be protected. And then once the insect ingests it, it's relatively quick. Like they're not going to live another week. It's usually within a day.
I mean, this was an absolutely huge tree in this tourist area.
Yeah, there is a very good chance that they're not actively managing it. A lot of the management efforts in heavily infested areas are focused on reducing the spread or giving the tools to people to manage their own property, and not necessarily municipality program or a state program. But I don't know specifically what's being done in New York.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of interstate compact for spotted lanternfly, like all the forest entomologists across the eastern half of the U.S. all talking to each other and sharing tips and tricks?
Yeah, we take shifts at all the rest areas at the state lines, and no.
I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, we regularly communicate. We're regularly, we have conferences that we see each other regularly at. We're sharing research results. Obviously, it's one of those things where, once we got spotted lanternfly, Virginia had it for a couple of years. So talking to our neighbors, talking to other states that are dealing with it, what works and what doesn't. I think that's actually one of the things that North Carolina benefited from. When we first found spotted lanternfly here in 2022, the NCDA was really, really proactive about it, and they really went after it. And honestly, what I think is the best response that any state has done to spotted lanternfly. It was really impressive to see them all come together. But the reality is they were learning from other states. They were learning from other people who had dealt with it. They're like, well, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Well, we didn't do really worked either. It's still, very active there, but there's a lot that can be done. And it's now, I think a lot of the shift is more so like, what can people do on their own property? Like, how can they make sure their plants are protected, that populations don't go crazy on their own property, and just make sure that they have the tools for all of that.
Amazing stuff. Well, let's give Dr. Oten one more round of applause.
Thank y'all.
Excellent job. Fantastic work. Thank you for being with us today. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and insights. I'm glad that we've got you on the case.
Thank you for having me anytime.
And thanks, everybody, for participating in today's program. We'll be back here again next Wednesday at noon in the Daily Planet Theater and on the museum's YouTube channel. So either way, I hope that you'll join us for an intro to biomimicry. That'll be next Wednesday at noon. If you haven't signed up, you can get email updates about the Lunchtime Discovery Series from the North Carolina Office of Environmental Education. Just head to their website, eenorthcarolina.org. You can sign up, and then you'll get the link in your inbox every week with what's coming up so that you can come be a part of what we've got going on. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you soon. Bye.